The amazing secrets of World War I. Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of history as we explore the amazing secrets and facts about one of the most significant conflicts ever, World War I. You might know bits and pieces about it, but we're here to bring you the cool, surprising stuff that you might not have heard before. So buckle up, because we're about to embark on a wild journey through time. What is World War I, and how did it begin? All right, so let's start with the basics. World War I, often called the Great War, took place from 1914 to 1918. It wasn't just a battle between a couple of countries. It was a global conflict that shaped the world in ways we are still feeling today. It all kicked off when Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria was assassinated in June 1914. This event was the spark that ignited a powder keg of complex political alliances and rivalries that had been building for years. Causes of the war. Now you might be asking, what caused such a huge mess? Well, there were several factors at play. First up, military alliances. Countries formed various treaties to protect each other, which meant that when one country went to war, its allies had to jump in too. Then, there was militarism, basically. Everyone was building up their armies and weapons in a big showdown of strength. Don't forget about imperialism. Nations were scrambling to grab territories around the globe, leading to rivalries that could explode at any moment. And of course, we can't ignore nationalism. Different ethnic groups wanted their independence, which added fuel to the fire. All of these factors combined created a situation that was just begging for a conflict to break out. Timeline of major events. Let's break down some key moments throughout the war. On July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia, and boom, that's when everything started to spiral out of control. Just a few days later, Germany declares war on Russia, and by August 4th, Britain jumps in, declaring war on Germany. Talk about a domino effect. These initial declarations set the stage for an all-out war involving many nations, turning battles into massive, high-stakes confrontations. People were glued to their radios and newspapers, eager to learn what was happening as the war raged on. The nature of warfare. Now here's where it gets intense. The war saw the rise of trench warfare. Imagine soldiers living in muddy, rat-infested ditches for months on end. Trench life was brutal. Think cold, wet, and simply unbearable. Soldiers had to deal with terrible living conditions and the constant fear of enemy attacks. But that wasn't all. This war also introduced new military technologies, like poison gas, tanks, and airplanes, which changed how battles were fought and fought hard. The use of gas created a new level of horror. It wasn't just about bullets anymore. Now it was about chemical warfare. These advancements meant that casualties were astronomically high and that battles could change in mere moments. The role of propaganda. As the war dragged on, nations turned to propaganda to keep spirits high. They needed to convince everyone that they were winning and that this fight was worth it. So posters, pamphlets, and films glorified the war and demonized the enemy. The famous phrase, "Your country needs you," became the rallying cry for soldiers to enlist. Governments used clever techniques to stir up feelings of patriotism and pride, convincing people that participating in the war was their patriotic duty. This way, even if they didn't know much about the war, they felt committed to help their country's efforts. Global involvement. Now let's talk about how the world got involved. The United States, after initially trying to stay neutral, eventually entered the war in 1917. With fresh troops and resources, they were like a breath of fresh air for the weary Allied forces. Commonwealth countries like Canada and Australia also sent soldiers, showing that this was truly a global war. Each nation brought its own flavor to the battlefield, making it a diverse and chaotic environment. This mix of cultures and backgrounds contributed to unique stories of bravery and sacrifice. Aftermath of the war. All right, so what happened after all the fighting? Well, the Treaty of Versailles was signed in 1919, and boy, did it shake things up. This treaty placed heavy reparations on Germany and led to significant territorial changes. These decisions didn't just affect the countries involved. They echoed through history, setting the stage for future conflicts. Society also changed. Women had taken on new roles during the war, and there were increased demands for rights and equality. This shift was a precursor to the women's rights movements that would follow in the coming decades. Lasting legacies. So what's the takeaway? World War I left a massive imprint on the world. It directly influenced international relations, led to the creation of the League of Nations, the precursor to the United Nations, and wrote the first chapter in a book of ongoing geopolitical struggles. The lessons learned during this war are just as relevant today. From understanding the cost of conflict to recognizing the importance of communication and cooperation between nations, the remarkable consequences of World War I help frame our current global society. In summary, World War I wasn't just a war. It was a pivotal moment in history that taught us about the complexities of human behavior and the impact of international relations. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you find most surprising about World War I? Let us know. Until next time, keep exploring the amazing stories of our past.